Hello and welcome to Garblag Games Mage the Ascension Masters and Monsters.
Hello and welcome back to episode 7 of Masters and Monsters, the Mage the Ascension game. I think Sam's doing that thing where she stares at the camera for as long as possible.
Yeah. No, I'm trying to get the right angle. Just ignore me and carry on.
Yeah. In a moment, we will go around and everyone will say who they are and who they're playing. Sam will also do XP.
Yes, we should do some XP because we haven't been doing any.
I've been told to.
And people need it.
Adam, you're really scaring people right now.
Please stop.
But before we do, advertisements here. Please go and check us out on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. We're sharing a whole load of things on there. We've got our Garblag Games tabletop gaming community as well on Facebook. Please also check out our Patreon. We're sharing maps, adventures, backgrounds, previews of our ZweihanderRPG setting, all on there for our patrons. So please consider supporting the channel. Also, don't forget to go and check out our other show, Flint Steel, which will be back next week. Season 1 is all done and wrapped up nicely, so there's a whole season for you to go and watch there.
So this one's Steel now.
It's now Steel, and then Steel and Flint. So yes, Flint and Steel is there, all wrapped up for you to watch. And we also have our Zweihander mini campaign, which we just finished a couple of weeks ago, which was 4 episodes, and we had a few after show chat episodes as well to talk about what we thought about the game. That was to accompany a Kickstarter, and there are links for all of those things below. Anyway, I'm trying to wrap that up a bit quicker so we can get into the game, because I know that sometimes it takes about 15 minutes for me to say everything at the beginning of an episode. Anyway, okay, so...
I can promise he does it every time in real time. You're not recording it and then just doing it again, and then changing the t-shirt.
I wish I was that good at editing. That would be great.
Did you want some more green t-shirt?
I am very tempted... Damn you! I am very tempted to do just an intro video, hello and welcome, kind of thing, and then just play at the beginning, but... I think that would lose a bit of the raw nerves that come across.
And the spontaneity.
Exactly. And
all
the
of us
fucking up that I did last time on the last episode, where you'll see in the first few minutes there's quite a hard cut as I messed it up. Anyway. Yeah. Anyway, we're dragging it out. So, without further ado, we'll start on my
Right. Hello, I'm Sam and I'm the storyteller.
Hi, I'm Colin and I'm playing Captain Rufus William Foxmere, the Acacia Clever.
I'm Adam and I'm playing Abe Cohen, a member of the Society of Ether.
And I'm Pete and I'm playing Jeremy Cranthorne, an accountant member of the Order of Hermes.
And we are sadly missing Roger tonight, who normally plays Ron, our Mountie. And I am frantically thinking what I'm doing with him while these guys do some XP.
More importantly, we're missing the dog.
Yes. Well, actually, I might just give you the dog anyway.
Okay. Cool.
Roger, if you watch this back, I owe you some XP.
I think it's fine. So how many XP have we got?
Right. I don't think I've given you any hardly at all, have I?
Had 9.
We had 9.
You've had
sort of
9.
Early on, and we did a little bit.
And we're on session 7.
Yep.
So you're really owed at least another 9, I think.
Depends on whether session 1 was... I think 1 was character creation. So 5 actual sessions, so I think another 6.
I don't know, I think we got 9 after 2 sessions.
I have 9 and I'll just forget. It's fine. I'll probably forget again next week. We'll do 9 now. It's fine.
That puts me on 12.
So, also, I'm going with the... There is a slight
Which is
controversy as to how you expend XP in these era books from White Wolf. Because some of them said current and some of them said next rating as a multiplier of what you are trying to spend it on.
Some of them just said rating.
Some of them also just said rating, which was super helpful. It was apparently meant to be the harder of the options, so it was the new rating. However, that wasn't how we have ruled it for years and years, so I still do it as current because, really. But yes, the other one is probably more correct, but I've done it this way for years and years, so I'm going to continue to. So, we should have XP costs for various things in the books.
Yes. I think I noted a few things down on my character sheet. So attributes, it's 4 times.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Skills, it's 2 times.
Yep.
Spheres, it's 8 times, unless it's your sphere, which then it's 7 times. So as Order of Hermes, mine would be forces.
Yes.
And for your Adate,
130,
it's 8 times.
Yep.
I don't know about anything else like
New
willpower
spheres
or
are
anything.
10 and new abilities are 3 because they obviously use
Yes,
0
that's it.
times.
Oh, I've got it there. New 10 written over there.
Yeah.
Damn.
Things like backgrounds, in theory, yes, in new rating times 3. I'd far rather people just roleplay while they got a background and you
Sure,
just
yeah.
spend XP on it. But yes, so there is a chart if anyone would like to look at it, but yes, we have found.
Which is current rating.
Yeah. I do kind of a mixture of things with backgrounds in that there were some backgrounds I find work better as just spending experience.
Yeah.
But
then
not
some
many.
others are,
Yeah,
no.
it's quite hard to work out how you develop arcane sort of
Arcane or
Yeah, you can really
yeah,
develop
like
arcane.
avatar.
particularly for something like Totem in Wealth, I think.
Yeah.
I don't know, Totem is something you can kind of work
You
out.
can do, but
Anyway.
But not in
Anyway.
sort of short session
I don't know,
times.
you can kind of do things, there's lots of things that kind of your Totem likes and doesn't. There's a whole list normally of things your Totem likes and doesn't.
Cool.
Anyway, so they can have some XP to spend, and I will frantically try to work out where Roger is.
Do you want to do a recap?
Yes, I'll do a recap while they're spending XP, and I'm trying to work out where Roger is. So, last week, our characters were awoken early in their various places of residence, to go and have, well, it was nominally breakfast, but a lot of it was coffee, with
Coffee and bacon.
Harry, yes, basically, back over in Whitehall. And various things were discussed, and various bits of the player party, possibly without telling various other bits of the player party, volunteered their services in Norway to help with Yvonne the Fandy. And it's possible that Abe and Jeremy are perhaps not the best suited to this endeavour, and I'm not totally certain how they're going to parachute, but we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. Or the dog.
I think we were going to talk to the
Yeah.
chorister or whatever.
or the dog.
Yeah. Hey, dogs and parachutes is cool.
But if it hasn't been prior training, anyway. So the gist of that was that you needed to you needed to go to talk to the guy that you had kind of rescued,
Garrett.
kind of apprehended, Garrett, the brother, at the hospital where you had left him, and make sure that he made his checking in with his master at their weird ritual circle somewhere under Aldwych Tube. Which went fairly successfully, actually. Various bits from Jeremy managed to cause reception issues, essentially, between master and apprentice, and therefore he probably didn't notice that Garrett was compromised. Probably. So, after that, it was then agreed that he would need to go back to the hospital for a bit, because he's still not terribly well and has developed pneumonia as well as his other issues. However, the characters were advised before they went back to talk to Harry that they should probably go to St. Paul's. Fantastic, huge cathedral in the city of London. It was all planned as part of Christopher Wren's rebuilding of the city of London after the Great Fire in the 17th century. It's a giant domed thing, looks nothing like any of the sort of small parish churches that are put around it, but you can see it from a mile off. However, there has been a lot of time and money and barrage balloons and all sorts of things invested in making sure that St. Paul's is not hit in the Blitz and has not been hit in this effectively second Blitz of the V1 and V2 rocket bombs. And the players had discovered part of the reason that everyone is so keen that St. Paul's is never hit is it turns out, to no one's surprise, there's a massive node down there, which is effectively a wellspring of magic bubbling out of the earth itself. And you've been advised to go and speak to the custodian of this, a woman named Rachel, whose husband is apparently the dean of the cathedral.
Yes.
And in terms of who she is, I believe what was said is you'll know her when you see her. So
she's a chorister.
she is indeed a member of the Celestial Chorus. So a prime specialist in all
Prime.
What was her name? Rachel?
Rachel, yes.
Rachel.
We weren't given her name.
No.
No.
What is Ron's matter focus? Because he's the one I've been seeing using matter all the time. Sorry, no,
Forces.
he's using forces.
It's knife, isn't it?
He's used forces and matter. He's used both.
Yeah.
He might have wrote it down. Let's just have a look.
You put it next to his sphere.
Spheres, maybe? That's what I'm writing mine.
Indeed.
Yeah.
He hasn't put a matter focus down,
Okay.
I'm afraid.
But a
Okay.
forces one?
His forces one is his knife.
Would you be okay with me gaining a point in correspondence?
Yep.
Considering all the kind of...
Considering you were messing with a
stuff.
correspondence circle earlier today, that seems
Cool.
entirely reasonable.
Thank you. That brings me up to 2 correspondence.
particularly.
touch and ward against crime.
Ward is probably
It's
going to
the
be the
ward
one
that
we
is the
really
useful
want.
one.
That's why I want it.
I mean, of course, you're still making an opposed roll against a master if you're
Yeah,
trying
but
to
hey,
stop him from finding us. But
you know.
Every bit helps.
Make it slightly
make
blurry,
it slightly,
and watch it.
yeah, exactly. Make it slightly harder.
Yeah, slightly.
I know where they are, but the reception's terrible.
Yeah.
Which, to be fair, sometimes
It's better than- yeah.
might be useful. I know where they are, but I can't hear what they're saying about me. Could be quite useful.
That is very true, actually.
Okay.
Adam is thinking. That's Adam's thinking load.
So
I've got a spirit. I've got a spirit. That's okay.
Yep.
Because I've got spirit things come through
Yep.
the lab.
Yes. Oh, the other thing.
Or
The
dimensional sciences, I would actually
Yes.
call it. But anyway.
The other thing that happened, obviously, is that your sort of not apprentice Jakob was left to try to deal with this gun that had started turning on, and then you got a phone call from one of the guys at the
Cranfield
base suggesting that he had badly burnt himself on
Oh yes.
said item and was now in the infirmary and was very bad-tempered with everybody and everything. But then, how do we tell that from Jakob?
Yeah.
He's bad-tempered.
And just a warning to our viewers: did we say it's very blustery, and we may have to go and
Yes.
repair the door at some point because the garage door keeps the studio door. keeps
There is a bit
blowing
of
off its
there is a
hinges.
bit of a storm in the UK tonight.
Yes.
Any weird noises and all of us suddenly looking at the direction of the door
Yeah.
is why. Which for me, the direction of the door is me actually looking that way.
I'm just looking that way.
Peter's looking forwards, and these
And
two are
it's-
probably trying to look over Colin's shoulder.
Yes.
If
Yeah.
something's gone horribly wrong.
And to anyone listening, sorry if it goes silent for a moment and you hear lots of banging.
Yes.
Cool. Okay.
If there is wind background noise at all.
Yeah.
There's a wind warning. The matter.
There is.
Is it a yellow wind warning
It
or
is.
a red wind
And there
warning?
is a yellow warning.
Oh, red wind warning. I always think the yellow snow warning is the funny
worrying one,
yeah.
Red snow would be quite worrying too.
that is also fair,
Blood
actually.
on
Yeah.
the snow. Yeah.
Yes, red snow also worrying.
Yeah. Oh God, pain. Cool. Okay, so we were heading to St Paul's.
You were heading to St Paul's.
We've got a car, I think, haven't we? We hadn't discussed such details.
We've got a car out to Aldwych because we needed to deliver a
That's very true.
guy who couldn't really walk.
Yeah.
But he's been delivered back.
But he's been delivered back.
Probably in said car.
Yeah.
But I assume the hospital isn't far from
The hospital is really not far from the church, and also the hospital isn't far from Aldwych either, or Aldwych is also not far from the church. So, yes, you could have a stroll down the Strand towards St Paul's if you fancied it. That would work perfectly well.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
And yes, past Ludgate Hill and up towards the cathedral. So, predictably...
Stuff and places. I'm not as big of a
I'm a
Londonite.
bit of a London geek. So, yes, our characters, make their way along the Strand, past Ludgate Hill, and up towards the city. So the cathedral is still open. It's considered being very important that it's still a place for people to gather to worship. Predictably, a lot of those services in the last few weeks have taken on again a rather sombre tone anyway, even given how sombre they were beforehand, as there are now active casualties in the city again. They don't normally perform funerals here, but there's lots of services of remembrance most weeks.
I'll take my hat off.
There isn't actually a service imminently at the time, but there's people in here. Basically, it's sort of lunchtime by the time you get there. And there's people in here, some in uniform, some not. Some sort of sitting quietly in the pews, presumably praying or being alone with their thoughts. Some of them are further towards the front where there's candles being lit for various victims of the war. Even that, given that this is a really beautiful and important building, the windows have still got boarding over them to protect them from any nearby shells dropping. A lot of the sort of church's more precious artefacts and things have been packed away and taken away. Some of them are probably outside of London at the moment, actually. So the cathedral still doesn't really look like it does in peacetime, even though they've tried their best. And as you come in, I'm not even going to make you roll your perception and awareness type rolls, because it is obvious, like, oh, right, okay, I appear to be standing on a node. You get the distinct impression the access point is probably in the lower levels of the cathedral rather than the main floor where you're stood. There is a young lad, probably sort of 14, 13, 14, in a sort of cassock who's presumably effectively acting as a sort of verger, basically, because there's not so many men or women of fighting age around to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So he's making sure nobody nicks the donations box and, generally pointing people in the directions of areas to pray and that kind of thing as you come in.
I will put some pennies in the donation box.
Thank you very much, sir. God bless you.
Rufus will drop some money in the donation box. He's going to head over to where the candle's being lit and light one himself and sit there, stand there for a little bit. And he has a spirit focus of fire.
Oh, well, there we go.
So he's going to be sitting there, standing there for a little while, and possibly just staring at some ghosts.
Potentially, yes, actually, around here. But
Just
other
a
than
couple.
other than your normal ones,
Other than
probably
my
even
normal
additional ones here.
Additional ghosts.
Other people's ghosts, much better.
These ones aren't actively haunting me.
Yay!
Yet.
Yet.
But yes.
So yeah, if you wish to actually do meaningful interactions with them, we can roll. But if you just wish to sit there and contemplate,
He successfully
see some ghosts.
I don't particularly want to interact with him, but yes, he is actually activating magic. Looking into the spirit world.
Young man,
Yes, sir.
you're doing such a diligent job here as
Thank
you are.
sir.
We have been sent to meet the wife of the dean.
Oh, Rachel.
Yes.
Right. Let me just get one of my friends to come and watch the donation box, and I'll take you down to her.
Certainly. I'll keep an eye on it while you're gone.
Thank you. Right. He bundles off down one of the sort of corridors, and you see him talking to a younger lad who looks more like he's wearing like choir type robes. And he comes back with him. They will respectfully wait for Colin to finish whatever it is Colin is doing.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And if you'd like to go down and see her, I could take you down, probably.
Thank you.
Rufus may be there a little while before, unless someone comes and pokes
I'm gonna,
him on the
as we
shoulder
walk
or
past,
something.
I'm gonna tap him on the leg with my cane.
Yeah, because he's not looking.
Just
he's not looking at the same plane of
Yeah,
reality as
but
you
just
guys.
like surreptitiously, so just like, oh, come on. yeah.
He sort of turns around. You get the thing where he just kind of, his eyes just sweep straight over you without seeing you. He blinks a couple of times, then looks back to you.
I'll just sort of point this way.
Right.
Okay.
So, as I say, St Paul's was only built in the 17th century, and it was planned and beautiful, so there's no weird old undiscovered passages and crypts down here or anything like that. As fun as that would be, they're not here. They're in some of the other churches. But what there is a chapel, which is down in the vaulted end of the cathedral, which seems to be where he's leading you. In peacetime, if any of you had made a habit of visiting here, it is sort of used, and it's also sort of used for sort of, if you like, almost small-scale functions that want to be in the cathedral but don't need the cathedral.
Okay.
So things like children of minor nobility getting married and that kind of thing quite often happens down here, and more private funeral services or that kind of thing. But at the moment it looks like it's been shut up. But he pulls out a big key ring effectively from under his pockets and starts to unlock the doors. She's pretty well this morning.
Is she not normally?
Sometimes she's a little bit,
Well, quite.
But she's doing all right today?
Yep, today's a good day.
Excellent.
You should get a decent conversation.
So the
out of
door we're going through is locked
Yes.
from the outside.
Yes.
Is there anything we can do to make sure?
Possibly also from the inside. to be
Possibly
fair.
also
There's-
from the inside.
no
Maybe,
guarantee there isn't a key
maybe.
on both sides.
Sure.
She just struggles with focus, I think. There's such a lot going on.
Right. So is there anything we can do to help? Or?
You'd have to ask her. I'm not really an expert.
Right.
I've made sure she's eaten and drunk today. That was my main job for this morning. So. Right. He leads you into what is a relatively small chapel. This is really nicely laid out. This wasn't an accidental add-on. This was put into the cathedral from the first. There's a very pretty vaulted ceiling. The columns are not as fancy as the one upstairs, but they've been done very nicely. The benches have the pews have clearly been made to fit in this space, and they sort of curve round.
Mhm.
And overall, it's a very sort of much sort of softer and smaller and a bit more of a sort of still religious but more intimately religious sort of space than what you get upstairs. Sat on one of those weird tapestry pillows that you get in old churches for kneeling Christians. I'm not sure why they've always got weird tapestry on them, but then there is a woman in probably her early 40s, and she's made a sort of small pile of them, and is sort of sat with her back to you lot as you open the door, and facing the altar. And she's got a dress on, looks like, even though if her husband's the dean of the cathedral, they can probably still afford to get hold of decent cloth rations. It looks like this is one of those fantastic things they're always advertising, they're always going through how to do on the radio, of how to turn a man's suit into a lady's dress. So it's still got the sort of lapels and that sort of thing that look like it went on a suit. Cool. And it's kind of been styled to make it look like that's on purpose. But she looks very neatly turned out, though. She's got sort of short brown hair and a bob. And she's got her back to you as they open the door. The young lad says, Rachel, Mrs. Williams? Rachel? What is it here? So I brought some people down to see you, ma'am.
We're friends of Harry's?
Oh!
Yes, sorry to disturb you in your reverie.
No, do come in. Hugh, it's fine. I'll, do you... Right, she turns around to look at you. Again, she looks, I say, very well, very neatly put together, sort of laid in her early 40s. But when she looks at you, her eyes are a very, very, very light grey. Ooh. And for the first second or two when she turns round, you'd almost swear they're not ominously glowing, but they look like they're actually emitting light, basically, when she first turns round to you. But she sort of blinks a couple of times and it goes off. Have you eaten? Do you require any food or any drink? You could probably fetch us some things. I've had lunch, haven't I, Hugh? And he says, yes, you have, Rachel. He says, well, all right, I probably don't need anything, but do you want anything?
Well, I think we're all quite content at the moment, thank you.
Oh.
Your young chap, Hugh, is doing a very fine job. I'm going to kind of ruffle his hair a little bit.
He is. He's my husband's nephew. High hopes of him, don't I, Hugh? Yes, Mrs. Williams. Go back up the top, make sure everything's running all smoothly up there, and I'll give you a shout if I need anything, okay? Yes, Rachel. Right, and he trots off.
Yes, we're very sorry to disturb you, and clearly you are busy.
No, disturbances are occasionally useful. Do come in and take a pew. Right, she gets up off her cushion pile and sort of sits slightly more awkwardly on the steps leading up to where the altar would be, and sort of gestures to the pews in front of her.
Okay. Sit down. Yeah.
So, well, Harry told us to come over here. Are you alright? Is there anything we can do to help? No, not she met before and around London for a while.
Oh, no, I'm, right, she gesticulates on the sort of floor space in front of her. I'm spinning a lot of plates, shall we say. All of this needs to go places.
So you're
Someone
using
has
it
to
to
be
help.
here to keep channeling it all.
It's
fine for itself for a few minutes, but there's a lot of interruptions and people keep trying to
very well. Well, we should
interfere with the supply.
Oh, so you're just channeling the node?
I'm channeling the node into various different ley line networks that we've set up, but the enemy keep trying to tap into them, and some people who probably would be our friends if they knew they were, but they're not asking nicely, they're just randomly tapping into them as well. Right. Just keeps causing me issues. That's why I'm still here rather than elsewhere. This needed doing.
Well, it's very important work.
Yeah.
If only the wider community knew what sacrifice you're making.
God knows.
So this is going to extra-dimensional bases and things?
Extra-dimensional bases, and other places that need it and are running out in different parts.
Anything on the continent?
Couple of places in France where the resistance are holding that we're trying to keep ticking over. But it's tricky because every line I send out there's a risk that someone will find it. And there's a risk that someone will be powerful enough to track it back to here.
Yeah, well, I don't know if they track it back to here much, does it?
So I run it for set hours in the night sometimes, that kind of thing, just to keep stuff charging. We're sending some extra out to Bletchley Park as well because they're in need of a little extra at the moment. I gather they're running through a lot.
Uh-huh.
And yes, other bases, some extra dimensional places as well. I mean, that said, most off-world have actually been pretty good about sending us some rather than the other way around at the moment. But there's some areas that they need support, and it needs to come from somewhere. It's a little tiring.
Well, then we should probably be brief, shouldn't we, gentlemen?
So, Harry must have sent you here because you need a little bit of, presumably, I mean, we can provide some mundane help. She gesticulates at the altar. Trust me, whatever any of you lot need, compared with what I'm trying to channel, I'm not going to notice. Where's he sending you?
Norway.
Oh, there
Norway, okay.
Yes, there's some.
I was going to say, did you get any information back? Because if you're sending all this stuff out, then surely
Can you sense anything further away?
Yeah.
Norway.
Yeah. From well, like I say, I'll give you more of the details because it might be relevant, especially if you're talking about primal energy flow. So it's a gentleman called Francis Gilbert. He's got a weird new Enochian name now, or something like it.
Yes.
He used to be in House Jerberton of the Order of Hermes.
I've heard of Gilbert.
He's now one of the Nefandi. He nicked a bunch of premium.
Yep.
And
we think he's going to go and encase a giant bomb in it.
Or something like it. We're not quite sure what he's going to do with it. He's developing a very powerful forces bomb that wouldn't be a prototype. It wouldn't be risky. It wouldn't endure paradox, I guess you call it.
Yeah. Yes, I can see why that's a problem. I mean, Gilbert was a problem for a long while before he did that, but the Order wasn't really interested in listening to the rest of us.
Yeah, well, one benefit of this is it brought out the skeletons of all
that cabal had been rotten for a while. We knew they had. But, at least to some extent, Gilbert saved us trying to fight 4 of them by murdering the other 3, so,
Yeah, silver lining and all.
So we've just got the one master to deal with.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Yeah.
He's been communicating from a location close to Copenhagen.
Okay, right.
And his servant is in Norway unearthing some sort of artifact. Is that right?
Don't know much more than that.
At some sort of base where there may be... what was it called, Abe? The stuff?
Are you talking about heavy
water?
water?
That's it. Heavy water. Sorry.
Yeah, that's so far out of my...
I'm not sure how much that means to you.
No.
But
let's just go with really big bomb.
There's lots of things going on in Norway, and he's on his way there.
Right. Okay, so Norway. Right.
And the number of men are about to do something stupid.
Right.
As opposed to us.
Could you give me a hand with the table?
Of course.
She gestures at you and stands up. There's an altar cloth down here, but what is actually down there, as I said, is very. Once you look at it, it's a table underneath the altar cloth rather than a solid lump. And she sort of gets you to shuffle it over to one side with her, and under it there is a perfect half sphere, set into the floor. It's probably 1.5 meters, maybe 2 meters in diameter.
Okay.
It is giving off a very faint glow.
6 foot.
Looks like it's made of glass.
Okay.
Or maybe some form of polished crystal or something. It's absolutely flawless, and it's one of those things that it looks so smooth you want to touch it because it looks like it would just be so smooth.
Can we see through it?
At the moment, you can only really see a sort of white silvery reflection, almost like a mirrored sort of inside.
Yeah.
Right, and she reaches out and puts her hands onto it, and what springs up is, if you like, a sort of like a globe. So you sort of got
cool.
You've got it sort of comes up with the North Pole in the middle, if you like.
Yeah. And
she starts to move it round and pull it around and sort of dragging out bits to make them look bigger and smaller.
It's a touch screen.
Multi-touch. Zoom in.
Yeah.
So how are the details picked out then?
Right, the details are picked out in light. It almost looks like it's being projected onto it. Obviously, cine projection and stuff is a thing. It almost looks like it's being projected up from the inside, but it's clearly not. It's in too fantastic a detail to be a cine thing. And now you see it's the map style is very old. It's almost like what's being reflected is like they were trying for parchment colour, if that makes sense.
Okay. Yeah.
And all the areas, the fjords are beautifully picked out, like someone had done them with a calligraphy pen, so they're thinner in some bits and thicker in others.
Mm-hmm.
Right, so...
Wow.
Norway. Right. She waves her hand over that sort of long, thin country. Long, thin country. Right. So the rune forge is compromised. And there's a little light dot that comes up towards the bottom edge of it. And she pops her finger on it and it goes grey and sort of almost like the light projection drops off of that. So the rune forge is compromised. We know we can't go there. The
Rune Forge.
It's a very old node belonging to a very old cabal. But as far as I'm aware, they're all, well, they've battened down the hatches as best they could, but the whole city's in enemy hands. So I suspect if they're still in the city, they're hiding. And they're certainly not using the node. So we have to assume the rune forge is compromised. Right, she puts her hand right up to the top, like way into the Arctic Circle, starting to approach even further north than you went.
Yeah.
Right, Wolf's Holt is still there. That's she again just touches a finger prick, and there's almost like a little star of light pops up on it. So Wolf's Holt's still there. I can see if they're receiving. But
As
they're
in,
still
you mean,
on.
sorry, you mean talk to them?
I mean, the node's on, so yes, I can probably communicate with them if there's people right
Is that
there.
the nearest?
Well, I'm trying to see. So whereabouts would you be able to show me, young man? Or any young man, I don't really know.
I'll point out to where it is because I know basically where it is.
Oh, right, okay. Right, well, again, she taps it quite a lot this time, rather than the other one, she just pressed it in with boink. She taps this one quite a lot, and a very faint sort of blue sort of light. Again, it's nowhere near the brightness of the other one she touched. Starts to pulse. She's like, well, there's still the remains of something there, but it's been allowed to run fallow for a long time.
Do we know what it was? Do we know anything about its history?
I don't personally. I mean, I can use this network to remote view, but the risk is if there is already somebody there.
He's pretty good at.
Then I think the best bet would be to talk to Wolf's Holt. She moves her hand back up to the northern one. I mean, there will be little individual, the odd little glade clearing here and there I can't pick up. These have to be big ones, and normally ones that have been in tradition hands for a long time, or at least in the order of reason when they were still contributing to the map. So I can see Manhattan for you or Bletchley if you wanted me to, but...
Right.
Well, if Wolf's Holt is the best option, then maybe.
Second question, does anyone speak Norwegian? Because
Yes.
I don't. Marvellous. Right, so
I had a strange feeling that you were going to say yes.
I can
I
channel...
spent a good while up there
Yeah.
causing trouble.
So I can channel it through you,
Of course.
then you can speak to them directly. It's not a comfortable experience.
I'm sure I can manage.
Marvellous.
He's used to that.
Right,
I'm not
so...
entirely sure what you're trying
Other
to say.
voices talking to you and coming through you.
Oh. I've got issues.
We all got issues.
Well, hasn't everybody? She
Yeah,
said.
we're
There's
awakened.
a lot of that going on. We've all got issues at the moment.
On a personal note, before you do that,
Yes.
I will point down at my foot.
Right, okay.
Harry said you might be able to help. I think that he has limited resources for this trip.
He does have limited resources.
And unfortunately, one of those resources is slightly broken.
Yep. That
Never
is-
taken the
that's
time
true.
to potentially look at this. I haven't wanted to be frankly honest. But any help that you could render to sort out my foot, and just out of character, I've got 4 experience points that I can spend to pay off the lame
Floor
floor if you want to go that way. If not, I'll save them
Alright.
for some skill points.
We can have a think, yes.
But yes, sorry, don't let me interrupt you. This
No,
is
no,
more,
it's quite
much more
alright.
important.
As
The
I said,
information
also,
is...
I'd say, I presume Harry wouldn't have sent me if he didn't want you to go as fully charged as you can, so... this might take me a little while to establish anything with Wolf Holt, so the water jugs at the back should be sufficient if you need a little extra.
But-
It won't last out of here very long, as
Okay.
water.
So it's
Can I
not-
just drink it?
Oh, you can drink it, yes, but if you wanted to take any extras, it won't last that long. unfortunately. It's not. It's not purely.
Sorry, the door is creaking.
The door is creaking ominously.
Yeah, like the cord is going to snap. I've tied it off to lock it down, but yeah. I need to get a bolt on the inside, don't I? That's.
Yeah. It's not.
Don't worry, ignore it.
It's not. It's not pure stable task. No, it's a temporary channeling effect that I use.
Yeah.
So yeah, it won't last any more than about 4 or 5 hours out of this room. So
OC question: how much quintessence can we actually hold?
what is your avatar rating?
If it's equal to avatar rating, then I'm on it.
That is equal to your avatar rating.
Because that's what
generally. Unless you have
My
an
avatar-
prime. I can't remember what the prime is. I'm looking at the person playing the prime specialist mage.
More than one, I
think it's
think.
more than one.
It is more than one. I can't
one.
remember if it's 2 or 3, but it is more than one.
So-
Yes.
I've got 2 avatar, but I've used one of my quintessence.
Then you can have
So I'm
another
going to
one.
go and have a glug of the juice.
Yep.
When she says will out of character, when she says it will dissipate out of here, she means as the water, not
yes.
in
'Cause
me.
there are ways of basically quintessence being travelable in stuff like water, which is pure
Okay.
task, which is a much harder resource to get to keep hold
4 or
of.
5 hours. We're not going to get there in 4 or 5 hours,
no.
are we? No.
Well, she said that entirely depends on how you're going. I can't send you in that kind of time frame.
I think we're parachuting in
That's
with skis.
dangerous and
I don't know.
slightly insane.
We've got a Canadian.
Yes, but yes, so have many people.
That's why I need some help with my leg.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's good to see some things about Harry never change. It's just somewhat unfortunate he's inflicting it on the rest of you as well now. There's got to be a better way to do it than that. Norway is big and cold.
Yes, but do
And
you
full
know
of
anyone
Nazis.
who's got teleportation magic at their fingertips?
I know of somebody, but I think
Other
probably
than the
your
person
friend
we're
here
hunting
would
for.
have better chance convincing him.
Oh.
Bletchley Park can do it, can't they?
Well, yeah, I guess they could. They're kind of busy though.
Yeah, it'd be a chunk of resources.
It's kind of important, though. If you told them about the giant magical resistant bomb and that we might be able to stop it,
You can ask.
then
Yeah, I can ask. I hadn't thought of that actually, because they're normally I mean it's all the same area of knowledge, but they don't tend to use it for that.
No, but they must be able to. It's harder, I know, paradigmic. But I can't do that sort of thing. I'm I'm a prime specialist. I'm able to do what I'm doing due to the presence of a whacking great wonder. She gesticulates at the sphere.
and as she says that, I'm going to pull my watch out of my pocket and start fiddling with it and stop involving myself in this conversation as I'm like, ooh.
Ooh, what's that going? Think about it. Right, so let us try and see if I can raise anyone at Wolfsong. Right, she puts her hand to the dot of light, starts sort of circling her finger at it, and you see it start to run up her hands. It's almost like there is like tendrils of light creeping up and running up through her wrist. And then they seem to almost disappear under her skin, where they reach the arteries under there. And she sort of holds it very still for a while. And when she looks at you, her eyes have gone completely sparkly and silver. Right,
Is there anything I
I
should
can
be doing
see.
to prepare myself? I have some basic knowledge of both prime and mind, and correspondence.
Well, that's useful. Good person to have around. I would sit down, because it's better than falling down.
Okay. Do you mind if I set up some monitoring equipment?
No,
I'm just interested in the whole prime flowing.
I'm trying to get them now, so do it quickly if you can. I don't want to hold off too long.
Sure.
Right, so I can see. Right, okay, I can see the hall. People moving. They don't look like soldiers.
Probably good.
A couple of women and their children, I think. Right, okay. One of them's approaching. Yes, one of them's approaching the node. Give me your hand. Right. And she grabs onto your hand. Right. I presume you are not attempting to resist magic that she is
I am
using
not
on you,
attempting to
or
resist
the
this
magic that the Wonder is using on you.
No.
Right. For a
If
second.
anything, I am trying to make the connection easier.
Yes. For a second, your eyes really hurt. Like the worst I've got shampoo in them ever. Like really, ow, ow, ow. And then you almost like something hot has hit you in the eye.
Yeah.
And then they clear, and you can't see these guys or that room at all.
Okay.
I mean, you've come across people doing all sorts of effects where you see through things and into things.
And
You
into
just-
the spirit world.
Yeah, you just are effectively standing there, as far as you're concerned. You are no longer here. You're in a wooden, to be honest, it looks like a barn. It's clearly an old wooden structure, and it's been shored up with corrugated metal and all sorts of other things. But some of the big beams look very, very old, and there's things carved into them. But there's also, however, hay in here and 2 goats. So...
It's a verbena. It's probably a verbena holding. The goats might be, being used for something later on.
Vital, yes. And there is an older woman in quite a sort of heavy woolen sort of dress and big coat, who some of which is done up with string, who is coming towards you, and says to you in Norwegian, who are you?
My name is Rufus William Foxmere. I have been in your territory relatively recently. I've spent some of the past few years causing trouble for our mutual enemies.
Right,
I don't know
who's
if
she?
you have heard of me.
You can't see anyone else.
She is Mrs. Rachel Williams. That was the name, wasn't it? The caretaker of the node at St. Paul's Cathedral in London. She is enabling this connection.
Right. Okay. So, what can I possibly do for you? Englishman with a very long name.
We have a good deal of further information about the Nefandus, who is, well, at least the master who is searching for an artifact in blah. Name of the place.
Yes.
I understand
Right,
that
you've
some
been
people.
working with them. Not the Nefandi, the mages of the area.
Yes.
They're crazy. We told them to flee to up here. We told them they wouldn't be able to make it this far.
They are looking
Stubborn.
Yes. But this is something very, very big and very, very dangerous. Aside from the artifact he is gathering, it looks like he is moving towards developing a weapon, potentially a weapon that could not be turned aside by magic, with the destructive potential of, well, roughly equivalent to that which destroyed Hornburg.
Right.
But a non-magical version.
Right. Well, that's probably the less bad thing he could be looking for in that fjord.
That is the mundane side of what we believe he is looking for. There's also the matter of the artifact that we haven't...
Yes.
We don't really know what it's doing and so forth.
It should be sleeping.
Do you know what it is?
I don't know what it is. It's been there. It's been there since the ancient times. Been there since the gods walked among us. It is waiting for its rightful owners, and he is not its rightful owner.
Rightful owners? Do you know anything about any stories around it? He is looking for people with particular qualities. He seems to be interested in twins, particularly in the female twin of a pair. I don't know whether that fits in with anything.
He's looking for souls. And the souls of its last will is the souls of the cabal that placed it there, the souls of the people that put it there, the souls of the people that can wield it.
I see.
Or he believes himself to have one of those souls, which is frankly ridiculous. There is no way one of those souls would survive being mutilated in the way he's done his own.
I see.
So, they need help.
They need help. We have some resources that they do not, including a very personalised bullet.
Because...
Because he had one of his people collecting them and we intercepted it.
Right.
I don't know how
I don't know what help I can be to you. There's 5 of us. One of us is a child. We're...
Any help you can provide would be useful. If nothing else at the moment, information. If you know anything about what's going on, I haven't been in contact with that group since I headed south.
They're still alive as far as I know. I think I'd have heard if they weren't. We know the regions that they're trying to... I don't know exactly where they're camping out of. I know what sections of towns they're working out of at the moment. And she'll rattle off some villages, basically, in that sort of region. They're working in between those 3 villages, is my understanding.
Okay.
They are, as I said... Oh, they're all going to get themselves killed, aren't they? Right.
Unfortunately, that seems quite likely. That seems like the best outcome at the moment.
Okay. So there's 2 of us that can fight. That's it. 2.
Yes.
Me and 1 other. We can come down. What can London do?
Unfortunately, London can provide... Well, there will be 4 of us coming from London. None of us are particularly experienced. I'm the least powerful magically, but...
But you can fight. You're a soldier. You can tell the way people hold themselves.
That is true.
Right. We will head south, and we will find them. And I will try to keep them from doing anything stupid until you get here.
We're going to look into a few different ways of coming. We'll either be coming over in mundane means via aircraft, or we might manage to find another way across.
Right.
Depends on what favours can be called in, I suppose, from what I understand, but I don't know the details.
Right.
We'll bring what we can.
So, she rattles off a phrase to you that seems like it should be part of Norwegian, but you're not really sure about it. And she asks you to repeat it back to her a few times.
Okay.
We will tell them. I will make sure that they know that that is what we're using for a sign.
Understood.
And then if you can get into those villages, they should be able to at least lead you to the mortal resistance fighters, who should be able to lead you to us.
I shall head in that direction then. I know some of those people already.
Right.
I actually have one further question. There were a number of artefacts that seem to be linked to this whole mess.
Well,
one seems to have been created by a prisoner he has taken, a member of the Celestial Chorus,
right.
twin to a member of the Thanatos who has been working for him.
Well, those are some interesting family dinners.
Indeed. That one, I think we at least vaguely understand what it's doing. The one that I'm most interested in that you might have... I don't know whether you have any insight for. There is a box. It appears to be a kind of puzzle box. Portions of it move when you press them and move back. There's no obvious ways of opening it, but as people have been interacting with it, symbols have appeared on the outside that do not appear to be entirely physically there.
Right.
The latest one that appeared was a rune. And if he'll say what rune it was.
Endings.
Indeed.
Or beginnings. Or death. Which we're not short of, are we?
No.
It doesn't ring any bells, but I'll ask.
Do you think it would be wise to bring it? It feels like it has some kind of connection with this.
I can't possibly imagine how it could make it any worse.
Which is not the most reassuring response, but yes.
Understandable. Right, you guys have been able to see him chatting, but it's in Norwegian, which the rest of you don't speak.
Okay, so we could hear
You can hear his side, but
okay.
yes.
Okay.
So Rachel says to you two, so I think they're finishing up the conversation. Is there anything else you wish me to pass on to him? She's...
What's the weather and terrain like over there at the moment? What should we...
He'll probably know to know that.
I was just thinking for, so we know what it's like up there at the moment.
You hear a voice in English and your friend wishes to know you've checked about terrain? You're like, snowy.
Yes, I've been there. I know roughly what it's like. I know the time. I've been
So if
in
there's
that,
like a storm
in that
there
area
or
in this
something.
time of year.
Like we're experiencing tonight.
Just a little bit. Right, so... you can ask her a few questions about where the current melts are and that kind of thing. Because, it is the summer, so it's not actually just wall-to-wall snow.
Jeremy has no idea about Norway.
Is there anything else?
No. Not that I can think of.
Right, and Adam, you had your sensory magics up, didn't you? Do you wish to roll for how that went, or have you already rolled for how that went? Are they up all right?
Yes.
What are you particularly trying to work out? Right, so the node is basically underneath that glass dome. The wonder that has been built over it is to help it be managed and channeled in different places. You don't think, and the sort of water thing seems to be a bit of her hack of it, you don't think this was ever intended to be where you sat and channeled it, if that made sense. That's just what it's ended up being. As you're an etherite, if you're not much mistaken, given, the exact amplitudes you're picking up and all this kind of thing, you suspect this device to have originally probably been an order of reason type thing, probably from the 17th century, to be honest. Or at least the very early 18th.
Makes sense with what you were saying about them contributing to the map.
Yes.
But no, I was more trying to see if it gave off anything. Well, one, she seems to be really good at Brian, so it was useful to watch.
Yes.
Someone actually doing this kind of stuff, but she seems to be doing Brian magic through it. That was mostly what I wanted to work out exactly what's happening and see if I could read anything through what the connection she's made, because obviously I haven't got correspondence, but I don't know if any of it bled through.
If you try to directly really sense the prime, you can kind of see flashes of what's going on around you. But also, particularly if you try to sort of, however your character visualises these things, from the other sorts of the wonder, you keep seeing funny little flashes of other places, if you like. You're like, that's York, I think. Or that, I don't know what that is, but that looks to me like it's written in Spanish. And yes, and funny little bits and flicks and, oh, hang on, American accent, where did that come from? And it's like you're just seeing little tiny glimpses of all the other places that all this is linked up to.
It's probably because I'm like using a meter this character to a bunch of sort of little radar dishy things. I'm keeping banging it and kind of going and writing a few things down and then kind of and it keeps on varying and giving you loads of random weird numbers and
little
crossing it out
snippets of different things.
When you start getting things coming through in clear Martian, that, you know what?
Issues.
Well, you've picked up with one of
where we put the Void Engineers last. Yeah,
exactly.
There's funny little snippets and hang on, that looks an awful lot like Table Mountain, and other sort of slightly weird things dipping in and out, and briefly, pyramid, and
Martian pyramid.
No, just a normal one.
Maybe.
Yes. Oh, I have your attention. You said I could also get, before I steal contestants from here, you said I could also get contestants from Cranfield.
You can, yeah.
How much could I have got from there?
It depends whether you wish to leave any for Jakob this week.
Probably.
Then you could probably take in a couple. Well, particularly now he's burnt his arm. But
I assume while sleeping last night gave you some willpower back.
Yes, that's the other thing I should have said. You went to sleep and you slept well. Well, most of you slept well, you two not so much. But you get a willpower back if you sleep sensibly, which you all did.
Yeah.
Weird dreams do not.
How do you otherwise get your willpower back?
Acting in accordance with your nature.
Fanatic.
So if you want to blow through all of your willpower trying to gun down this master,
then you're good. You can get some of it back. Right. So, in which case she will suggest you again advise me, Miss, and will politely say your goodbyes. This is. I don't want to do this too long in case it's intercepted.
Yep, of course, thank you.
Which you lot hear us say in English.
Yeah, and he will sort of flick. So he'll mutter something in English, and then say to the Verbena, presumably it's Verbena. She hasn't.
You didn't ask, but there's goats in here.
Yeah.
Verbena have goats. I'm sure Verbena have
The
goats.
goats could be Verbena.
The goats could conceivably be Verbena, actually.
It's possible.
Yeah, it's possible.
Enough life magic.
Yep.
Goat mage.
Goat mage, quite possible.
Yeah.
Most of what I was looking around for is I have a distinct lack of dice, which I need to roll. If someone could lend me some dice. Marvellous. Many dice.
many dice. That's probably going to be more than you need. I hope that's going to be more than you need.
Do not worry, it will probably be. Oh, I like red. Oh, that's shining on that one. Right. Okay. Right, you will snap out of it. Again, on the way back in, there is the oh god, all the soap in my eyes type feeling. She, from the stand next to where the water is, there's a series of funnels that have been soaked in water as well, and she just sort of reflexively hands. She's like, you get used to it.
I believe you.
And if you go to wipe your eyes, there's slight sparkles on the flannel when you take it away.
He'll be doing that. And when he takes it away, he'll go, yes, I probably did want to do that, because sparkling at people as I come out is probably not going to be great for...
Right, again, she looks at you lot and eventually her eyes go back down to normal.
Useful?
Yes, we should have a couple more allies.
Excellent. Well, that's useful.
2 mages from Bullsfame are going to go down and try and meet us there.
Excellent.
Do they know anything that's what's happening, or...?
Not a huge amount. They're not the same group that's going to be going up, that's planning on picking this fight.
Right.
But, I don't think they knew anything much more than I did about what's going on there, other than that group is still alive, probably. And they know the area that they're operating in, so we'll be able to head there to meet up with them. Then, yeah.
Fair enough.
Are you okay? It seems to have taken it out of you.
No, I'm fine. I'm just thinking
It's
that's...
just uncomfortable. She says.
Okay.
You get used to it, but it is uncomfortable.
It's a lot of people we're throwing at this. And
There's a war.
I just hope it's
She
worth
says,
it.
and Gilbert's a lot of trouble, though, if not
Yes,
dealt with.
I
He's
agree.
one of the most powerful ones, so if we get him...
But we're talking about, we're throwing probably at least 10 mages at this. That's a lot of risk.
Potential victims.
It's a lot of people that if he takes them is going to be a lot of trouble.
She also says it's a significant. Rachel says it's a significant portion of what we've got left.
I know. And
Yeah,
that's
but what else is the choice?
Exactly, but there isn't another choice.
No, I'm not saying that there is.
He's supposed to
I
be
just
one of-
don't like it.
I mean, the main
For
enlightened
what little it's worth.
elements of the resistance seem to mostly be these 4 Nefandi, and he's one of the masters of it, and he seems to be one of the more proactive ones. And I don't know the best way to phrase it, but practical.
Yes.
A lot, one of them's a sort of screaming one that's
Crazy person.
we're not even sure if they're working or if they're a bit of a natural disaster or if they've gone entirely doolally and not connected with the world at all. But they seem to be working with them, but it's hard to tell because they're that unpredictable.
Right. Yeah. He's focused, determined, talented, powerful, with an agenda.
And these 4 that are working together, I mean, it seemed, because it's unusual for them to work together, if you take any one of them out, the rest of the good stop working
It's
together.
going to mess the
fighting.
dynamic.
Sure.
We don't know what agreement they must have come to all be working together, but
So,
Nefandi don't work together. That's one of the main advantages.
Do we
we've got.
know anything about any of them?
oh, yeah, there.
I'm just wondering if we could at least sow some seeds of doubt as to whether we were working for one of the
Are
others.
they all
when
from
we
House Jerbaton?
No.
Right, well, while you're...
Actually, I could tell you all of this later.
there's
Yeah, we
fairly
can
long
have this
notes in here,
conversation
I don't
later.
know
But I'm just wondering if he escapes, it might be nice to sow the seeds of doubt that some of his allies were trying to kill him.
That's
I can tell you a bit
possibly
later.
true.
Is this globe thing a live thing? Or
What do you mean?
is this like historical known information, or is this actually reading?
No, this
Stuff around the
is
world.
connected.
Right.
This is running. Sit down and I'll need to examine your foot. Take your sock and your shoe off.
It's not pretty.
That's fine. I guarantee you I've seen worse.
Can we zoom in on a small...
Yeah, what do you want to see?
The bit where we're going at, the little bit. I want to see if I can get any readings, like any resonance, anything that might help.
Well, shit, something I might be able to teach you to do. Pass me a hand.
All right. And we take a lot of readings and things, but we can have a go.
Put your hand on the glass.
All right.
This is right. So if I move this way, can you feel the positioning move? Like you're moving something with a weight swinging beneath it. Do you feel? There's a pendulum effect.
Do I?
Yeah.
Kind of.
I mean, this was made by the order of reason in the first place. The trick has been for me getting my head around it.
Yeah.
All of those tiny micro adjustments. I mean, you can put your instruments on it if that would help you get your head around it. But just, it's all about those adjustments. Think of it as gravity.
Mm-hmm.
That's what you're moving effectively.
Right.
That's how it aligns itself. Like why it knows where everything is.
I think I get what you're saying. You're talking about primal force lines.
Yes. Try, have a go.
Mm-hmm.
While they're chatting,
Yes.
I've gone over to a pew slightly away from the chaps, and I'm trying to turn in a way that means they won't be able to see it. Because what happened
I was
to my
about
foot's
to
pretty
offer to
horrible.
go over and help, but if you're clearly trying to conceal it, I will not.
I'm clearly trying to conceal
Oh,
it.
so she says to you in a very offhanded way when you say, I'm sorry about the girl. Did you meet her? Before it happened, before she died.
Oh, no.
I'm not sure if that's worse or better. I've only ever come across two paired souls separated by death, and they at least had some years to work together beforehand, but though this probably isn't what you want to hear, the other one was never really the same.
Well, it is what I have to deal with.
His soul's bonded, but the other mate is deceased.
Yes,
Yeah.
I've been learning a lot about our friend over here.
About the same time that I
Oh, that's unfortunate.
first started
That
speaking
is
with my
unfortunate.
avatar. But, wow.
It's always interesting. I awakened when this came into my possession. I say, holding up the
Oh, that's
stopwatch.
interesting.
Yeah, I awoke when my avatar was screaming at me to get my head down before the sniper took it off.
Just
Well.
sometimes they're useful.
Good job. I was on my way back to Blighty to recuperate, and older gentleman passed away. Gave me his watch. We had served together. And this just changed my world forever.
I was making notes on the book.
You don't say. This is
Like right now.
I've only met you for 40 minutes,
This
so
was
I'm not
another written book. I
surprised.
was making notes on it.
Oh, okay.
All that.
You're writing
Right,
on a book.
Yeah.
do not break my ancient artifact. Let's see what we can do about the foot.
Very well.
Well, or if you do, there'll be many, many deaths on your conscience.
It does look like someone at very close range shot me in the foot. Very close range.
She is not remotely bothered.
Sure.
Right, she will...
That's why I'm probably alright showing it to her, because she's probably the last person in the world who's even going to care or even consider
No.
what may have happened.
She takes one of the bowls from the side where she has the water and some of the little white towels she has, and sits down next to you and says and gestures you to put your foot in the bowl.
I think I'm going to be spending the time watching him playing with the artifact
Right.
as well, because I also have fine
Possibly
magic.
Ooh.
Yeah. Can you do two uses at the same time?
I'm not trying to
Multi-touch.
I'm not trying to interact with it. I'm just sort of watching how it responds to him and
It's
that
like
kind
doing
of
the
thing.
traditional Google Maps thing. Going to where we are.
Yeah. Zoom in, zoom out. Right, where do I live? Over there. Right,
Exactly.
there we go. Zoom in.
Exactly.
Zoom
It's
out.
Cranfield.
Yeah.
Where I live.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can do that if you wish.
Horberg.
Big hole.
Oh, it's a big hole.
Does it look like a burned hole in the
Yeah, it
canvas?
does.
So it's recently updated then?
Yeah. Holmberg is a big, yeah, it looks like a burn mark in the parchment.
Okay.
With a funny little icon that looks almost like a funny little stylised picture of a flame. And actually there's some funny little stylised pictures other places. Like there's one that almost seems right by St Paul's itself. that's a stylised picture of a little chalice cup.
Well, like I said, I was going all the way into symbols. So.
Yeah, there's a little stylised chalice cup.
It's interesting symbology.
I don't see a key.
No. Right. She's basically going to start to wash the foot.
Okay.
And
They just touch those with certain things, don't they?
she's a cover stuff. Washing feet is completely legit. Right. Okay. Pete, it is apparent she is using magic on you.
Yes.
Have you got life or prime yourself?
I've got prime.
You will be able to feel, obviously, that it is prime magic being used, but also that you can identify other types of magic with prime, so you'll be able to tell she is using primarily life.
Okay.
But there is definitely a slight component of spirit and mind as well, almost like she's trying to align things.
Okay.
If that makes sense. Are you going to attempt to resist what she's trying to do?
Only the mind side, maybe, because I inflicted this wound on myself.
So roll your arate then.
But just to say, he was under the influence of mind magic at the time.
Yes.
His whole troop was, and he despaired and shot himself in the foot, and then got sent home. And then he found the wonder, and he awoke, and mind magic was the last sort of effect on him. So it was where
that's where his interest lay.
Yeah, just as a.
So difficulty 4, and tell me how many successes you get.
2.
Right. Okay.
Only like please don't go there. if there's a psychological, she's trying to heal that wound.
I don't think so. No, it's more like she's trying to. It seems very tied in with the spirit component.
Okay.
It's more like she's in, and it's not really your mind.
Oh, so she's talking to someone else.
No, you
Or
think she's
sensing.
trying to sense stuff off your avatar.
Okay. Right.
She's not like fully discoursing with it. She's just
Sure.
trying to get an impression of it.
Okay.
So she's not talking to your mind, she's talking to another bit.
Yeah, talk to the other side of me.
Yeah.
The stuffy side of me. Okay. He's probably a bit angry that I'm having the foot healed. Don't know. Jeremy sort of carried it around as a badge to himself to remind himself of what he did, but he's been fanatically trying to make up for it or find the person who's responsible for it and, bring their end.
Right.
So in some way he thinks going to Norway and this is all kind of repenting for the act that he did upon himself, but he's very confused about it.
Right. She's going
You
to
have
take.
to know that you regain willpower whenever you accomplish an act that furthers your course significantly.
Right. She's going to take about 20 minutes over it.
Having something
Okay.
done to you.
Right. What are you two doing in the 20 minutes it takes her to come to the end of her effect that she's running on him?
Play with this.
I think Rufus is having a nap.
Going, you can see my house.
I wasn't just going there for the fun of going to the places that I am. No, I'm going there to see how it interacts with my instruments, because I know what the readings are when I'm actually there for these places.
Yes.
I know them quite well, and therefore actually looking what the readings I get for the map.
Oh,
And
yeah.
my instrumentation's
And then you can calibrate it. Yeah,
Quite a
that's
reference,
useful.
yeah.
Yeah,
So
that's good.
While I was going to
A
places I know.
baseline.
Yeah, well, I was going to places I know. It was for a reason.
And again, but when you go to Cranford as well, you can feel it's almost like there's a teeny hot pinprick on your fingers you move, which you think is the node there.
Yeah.
And again, if you do like she did and sort of poke it, it'll come up and a little sort of shiny light come up. Not as big as one here, obviously. But the wolf's home one looked a tiny bit bigger, but of a similar sort of size.
So it looks like some sort of like basic camera type thing, pointing at wherever I'm on a bit of the map, and then I'll kind of zoom in and I'll go to play with the camera a bit, and then.
It's all very pretty. He's somehow managed to reduce it down to dials again. You're like,
I'm not really paying attention to the dials. I'm paying attention to the artifacts and the flows of energy and all this kind of thing. Because
and you can indeed see
time
others.
magic and correspondence magic and
there's all sorts of
I
things.
can do those.
This
Well,
feels
I can sense those.
old and a little clunky to some extent, but it's still clearly working. And both of you get that sort of you get really strange resonance and sort of feel of it. You can both, occasionally you're stood on stock still, properly, absolutely, beautifully level granite because Christopher Wren built this place and everything was beautifully level if he had anything to do with it. But very occasionally you feel yourself almost rocking side to side like you're on a boat, almost, and you can kind of hear funny, like, wooden creaks occasionally. You sort of shake your head and try and, like that, and shake your head and try and zoom in on them, and they're not there. And there's a smell of like varnish getting wet. Like, it, particularly your character being from quite a sort of upper class British background, it smells a little bit like yachts and boathouses. It's teak and oil and varnish and that sort of smell. Boat building type smells.
I wonder, do I think that's possibly the resonance of the person who made it?
Probably, yeah. And the artefact is literally just so big and so powerful that it's almost become a little time capture of his resonance. Or her resonance.
Resonance takes around whatever one
it does.
And effects.
But this one is particularly strong to the point that, yeah, it makes you feel slightly unstable on your feet, even though your instruments know you're square.
Yeah. If this is making a correspondence link itself, or is it?
It is.
To these places. Yes. Could I try to connect? Because I know that my lab was roughly awarded by my previous master, because I have the competence, but I assume I had to get through that.
Yes, you do. You would have done, yeah.
If it's got like codes or whatever.
Yeah.
Could I try to connect this to the what do you call it? The dial thing, the gyroscope.
Yeah. All right. Why not?
And see if what happens.
Right. Why not? There we go. Knock yourself out. Not literally, right.
Yeah.
Possibly literally.
It may
badly.
possibly. Give it a go then. Let's have some form of prime effect.
Yeah, I can't do the correspondence. This thing wants to do that.
Yeah. Do the prime side of it. So prime 2, I think, for what you're doing.
Sure. Then probably.
You don't botch.
Yay.
I can see an 8.
Right. Okay. So you don't indeed pass out.
2 5. So you're going with the 3 plus.
You can kind of connect it to the gyroscope. There seems to be, around the area you've done it, around Cranfield, and it starts to spread across the thing, there's like a purplish sort of tinge showing up on the map. I said, she's still doing it. What have you done? Do you know why? What is going on over there?
I'm just getting it to read some data from what I've got in the lab. I'm not quite sure what it means. I thought it might correspond to different things on this map.
What colour's it going?
Oh, purple.
Spirit world.
That's what I thought.
Right. And a purple mist spreads over the map. And very briefly, in sort of southern Europe, somewhere around the Med, both of you can see a teeny tiny little old-fashioned sailing ship pop up and then swim down again.
There's a ghost ship in the Mediterranean.
Quite possibly, he says.
I have no idea if that's important to anything right now, but there's apparently a ghost ship in the Mediterranean.
Well, the gyroscope points to a variety of places around the world for reasons that are still
Just
a bit
the one?
confusing.
On the map, purple
Yeah, I'm
means
facing the other
spirit
way.
world.
Okay.
A ghost ship popped up and then sank down below the waves in the.
Very
Red.
interesting.
So
It's apparently, well, the only theory we've got so far is that this gyroscope, it seems Victorian, so I don't know, it might be roughly the same sort of time, so it might be sort of the same sort of ideas behind both of the things.
Well, it seems to be working.
But this points to a bunch of places on the world. This might be where it's pointing to right now, but there's possibility that it's connected to the Flying Dutchman. Someone had the theory.
Okay.
Captain Robespierre.
Oh, yeah, she's, very famous explorer, I suppose. Supposedly got stuck in the Umbra. That's what sleepers see when they say the Flying Dutchman.
Mm-hmm. But it's got too many degrees of movement, the thing, so it's probably extra dimensional.
Which would
by
make
definition.
sense. Well, yes. Right, Pete.
Even I got that one.
Yes.
To stir me.
Pete, your leg feels... Right, she finishes and says your leg feels quite a lot... And you know your leg feels better.
Mm-hmm.
It still feels weak.
Okay.
She says, okay, so I've repaired the nerves and the tissue that was damaged when you were shot.
Mm-hmm.
realistically, the muscle is going to need a little while to build up again, so just go easy on it until it's had time to really warm up.
We'll see how that goes.
As much as you can.
Of course.
Given current circumstances.
Yes.
But just, as I say, just try and... Well, I mean, you'll be used to favouring the other leg anyway.
Yeah, it'll take me a while to get over that.
Yeah. Just try and... If you do manage to get the chance, just let it build up slowly. It will get there.
Well, if we make it through all of this, maybe after it's done, I'll put my feet up.
It should still be better than it was. But just...
If I
it
look
certainly
down there,
hurts a
is
lot
it, like,
less.
healed?
Yeah.
Okay.
There's still a thin white line
Okay.
where either the bullet was or where the surgery was done afterwards to get it out.
Yeah.
There's still a thin white line. But you can see, like, where there was a dip in the muscle and the thing, you can see that it's filled out, if that makes sense. It looks like the muscle under it's normal again. So, but it's not been connected up like that for a little while, so it needs a little bit to get used to. It might be a little numb to start with.
Do you mind if I ask what you were doing while you were doing that?
I think that for those of us that are awakened, the spirit and the mind and the avatar and our physical selves are very closely intertwined. To some extent, we're a manifestation almost of them, if that makes sense. So,
more and more every day.
To fix your foot, I needed to see its foot. Does that make sense?
Right.
You need to understand how it moves, if that makes sense, how it flows through you in order to really fix it. Because you can use life magic to prop up any old thing, but unless the soul follows the flesh, then it'll never really heal. Not in a way that's meaningful. But with us, our patterns are... Yes, our patterns are a key part of how and who and why we are and how we got here.
Yes.
The pattern must line up with the flesh, else the two will never ever really work in harmony again. And that's why getting injured by magic is so disastrous, because it doesn't just wound the flesh, like what happened to Harry. It hasn't wounded the flesh, it's damaged his pattern. I could go and help Harry out with his leg, no end.
But it won't match up.
But it won't match up, so it will never really work. It just goes, well, I've tried a couple of times, it just goes off again. The pattern's been too badly damaged, so that's what I'm trying to do, to see the pattern. And so to understand how its effect is on you, if that makes sense.
Yes.
I would say it likes you more than you think it does.
Oh, I'm sure. Sure.
Just be careful, it's an old soul, that one.
Okay.
So, how are you getting on?
Well, does that remove the lane?
That will remove the lane, but you'll still need to go a little easy on it, and also any random botches or fails on physical things I would probably blame on it not being quite healed.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I've just cancelled the JavaScript thing, but I haven't got time to really wait for it to switch. But I'll look at. I've taken the time, so hopefully, well, no one's working in the lab right now, but hopefully the JavaScript does change it randomly. If it's still in the same coordinates when I get back, then I know it was just displaying the coordinates. But I don't know if it's displaying its origins. It's a number of possibilities.
Well,
I was going to disconnect it and I was going to zoom in on this lab in Norway area.
If we all survive this horrible war, why didn't you bring it down here afterwards?
Yeah, well,
physically,
time is of the essence at the moment, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, but and like I said, we can't know which of these different things that we discovered around might have relevance to the war, which is why I'm investigating.
But if that is the Flying Dutchman, finding the Flying Dutchman is a nice idea. But Robespierre and his crew will be too heavily spirited by now. They won't be able to come back and help us.
But I mean, if let's say the foreign powers were using it as to track like other things, extra-dimensional forces, that kind of stuff, it could, and they've got that intelligence, or maybe we could use it to track theirs.
That's true, that is interesting. Well, let's, again,
like
alright then.
You can't know how useful it is until you get there.
If
you work towards a purpose. But
if we all survive the next few days, why don't you bring it down? There we go, that's
all these items were important anyway. So, but yes, I was going to disconnect that and I was going to move to the place we want to go to and see if I can read anything from there. Without paying the attention.
You can zoom in on the area that Rufus will point out for you. It's on the outskirts of a relatively small town. The town itself, at this point, certainly when you were there, is pretty much being used as quartering for the army at this point. There's not many of the original townspeople left there. Yeah. There's some there working as servants, but
that's about it.
The vast majority of the populace that could leave did. and is now hiding out in various villages and hills and stuff. The Norwegians did not take being invaded well. So yes, that town, it's a small town anyway, and it's pretty much just quartering for the Nazis as far as you know. And then the base area that they're so interested in is about 2 miles out of town, where the actual fjord edge is. So it's this great moving ice river and where it hits the sea.
So where's this little...
The little tiny blue bit is pretty much under where this base is. It's slightly to the northern edge, but it's pretty much under it.
Okay. So I use prime, correspondence, and mind to see if we can sense this.
You can put sensory effects up as well. Yes, and more of you with them up, but it certainly wouldn't. Yeah, you can try and say there is something. She's like, that's not a node. The little blue bit's coming up. She's like, that's probably the artifact. But it's buried very, very deeply, and
they'll be near that, won't they?
Would have thought so. That's got to be. I mean,
Should
again,
be asleep, apparently.
So we think this artifact is his primary interest. It just so happens to nicely coincide
Do we
with
know what
the
it
ingredients
is?
for a horrible bomb.
No.
Or do we think the horrible bomb's his priority and the artifact's a nice side idea?
I don't know. Could be either way round. Either would be...
What if it's an artifact that makes a bomb really bad?
Yeah,
Well,
I've
yes,
got to
but
think there's a
you're-
connection, because why else would you put the
Yeah.
thing in one place? Because you make the big bomb next to a powerful artifact. That sounds like it could go badly.
Maybe
you
it's
said-
a battery.
But you said the true horror of this thing was it might be replicable by sleepers.
Yeah.
Sure.
So it can't need the artifact. Because,
But the artifact may just...
well, we may help it. It's
I don't know.
the prototype's
I don't know.
got to be made to
But
start.
again, I don't know why you'd make a very risky bomb that could destroy a large area, unless they want to use it to mine for the artifact or something.
The Nefandi
there's
don't
been a few
need it.
theories of-
Nefandi don't make sense. Death for its own sake is all that they can. Is all they really need. They may have convinced themselves they've got other complex schemes afoot, but mostly it's death. And that's all they're really after.
But no, my guess would be that they want to use this explosive in some way with the artifact. I mean, I don't know.
Can
It's
I...
free the
This
artifact.
guy's hermetic, so he's inherently mystical, so he's probably going to be trying to do something
Could be to
with the
free
artifact more than bombs. He probably cares more about artifacts than bombs.
Yes.
That's a fair point. Yeah.
Yes. Can I...
You said
I was just
something about
thinking,
making
can
a power
Can I
plant
touch
with
the blue
something.
point?
Yeah, it's a theory, yeah.
Yeah.
I wonder,
with
would
prime
could we
one,
connect that up to
correspondence
the
two,
artifact and
Could do.
and mind
That
One
means
or
that's
two.
dangerous, though, so it's not something
reach
something
out
we
to that
need to worry about
location
quite so
that depends on what the artifact
and
does.
use my mind
produce
magic
conventional energy.
at the location.
Tried to connect to
To
another
see-
mind there.
Not to
effectively.
connect to a mind, but to sense how many minds
Oh yeah, no,
are
you can
potentially
totally do
at
that.
location.
So do that. The wonder will make effectively acts as if you have a focus and things that are exactly working for this.
Sure.
So it'll be
I
difficulty
have my
for
cane, so I could just touch the
Yeah.
head of my cane to the location. That's my correspondence.
it'll be difficulty for setting up the initial sensory.
Okay.
This is what's here.
Okay. 3 successes.
Right. Yeah. There's probably about in the base itself or the base in the town.
Base.
Probably about 300 or 400 human souls.
Shit. Okay. And
But this is
in a close proximity to the blue point.
not really, no.
No?
Most of them look to be in the southern edge of things. You're aware they're using effectively slave labour, the stuff brought up from Germany or the captured locals.
So they'll be all in
the industrial side of it.
So there's 300 or 400 people in the base.
Not there willingly.
Yeah, at least
Sure,
half, you'd have thought.
Sure. But there's not many people actually around the artifact right now.
No.
What time is it in Norway? A couple of hours ahead?
Yeah, not tons. That's very
So it's
true.
not like it's middle of the night or anything.
No.
No.
So this would
Maybe
be the
that's the
time.
reason they're not there.
Maybe.
Also, to be fair, it's possibly a good thing because you don't necessarily want an awakened Nefandus noticing you poking around trying to identify a form.
True. Okay. With my prime and mind, can I recognise any awakened people?
There's no... It's not an exact exact science
Sure,
recognising them, but there's certainly nobody giving off an unusually strong primed signature or anything like that.
Lights, and one of them slightly brighter than the others.
There's nothing.
Okay, fine.
And again, there's no one in the immediate proximity of the artifact.
I will take my cane off the thing then. That's a very interesting artifact. Yeah.
I want to use Matter and Prime to read as much as I can.
Read Matter and Prime to read as much as you can.
Magic hands.
How are we doing
More
time?
things.
Science, not magic. Science.
Science.
Oh yeah, sorry.
No.
Yes, I do mind magic.
You
do
can have
science.
another go. We are here for a little bit.
If you want, I was going to say, I've got 6 and 2 ones, but that's not working.
No.
You don't botch because you got 8 success and you don't get enough.
Yeah, you can sit here for a bit longer and readjust.
Is it sensory?
Yeah.
1.
You're not rolling well tonight, are you, sweetheart? Right.
He's rolling fairly well for the early
There
one.
you go.
Yeah.
So,
Willpower.
right, Prime. So, the artifact is the only immediate, obvious Prime thing there. Obviously, premium wouldn't sense. Materials-wise, there's all the standard things you would expect. There are 2 things that are giving you unusual signatures.
Mm-hmm.
The southern bit of the base, which is the bit that's right on and effectively going out a little bit over the water, so the actual sea and the coast cliff itself, there is very small traces of a mundane but extremely rare elemental nature, so you think you probably are looking at heavy water, H3O. It's H3O, isn't it? It's not H2O2, it's H3O.
H2O2 is hydrogen
Yeah,
peroxide.
exactly. That's a different thing. It's H3O, I think, heavy water.
No, heavy water is actually, normally it's not H, it's
Either way.
D or T.
Yeah, something
Yeah.
else, yes.
It's H,
That
but
stuff.
it's heavier
Yeah.
H.
Yes.
Very heavy H. Right, yeah. There is heavy water there, yes. And all of that could possibly entail.
Mm-hmm.
However, the artifact is made of something extremely unusual as well. It is made of all sorts of different metals, including a couple that are on the sort of slightly unpronounceable end of the periodic table and sometimes not found on Earth.
So there's probably some metals in that human science does not yet know about.
Yes. Definitely. And even the ones that they do, yes, are down the unpronounceable end.
Interesting.
How big is it?
It is about...
I'm just shouting things at him while he's doing his stuff.
You're getting a signature. You think there's other bits connected to that, if that makes sense, but there normally is with artifacts. The bit that is the weird metal is about... It's a sort of rectangle. It's about 50 centimetres long, and the other 2 dimensions are probably about 25 to 30. So it's a sort of rectangular lump.
Interesting.
There is definitely other stuff. You can sense some wood down there.
Bottles.
And there's some, there's definitely some wood. There's some precious metals as well knocking around. There's some traces of gold, a few bits of silver, that kind of thing knocking around. You think a few quartz-based precious stones as well, or semi-precious stones. But yeah, it's the giant metal lump that's made of the interesting stuff.
Mm-hmm. That's the best read I can get, but yeah. It does seem to be some unusual metals. It probably looks quite shiny.
Off-world, she says,
Like
possibly.
Like an alloy.
No, like it's got jewellery and like probably gold and silver and all that kind of stuff over it.
Right.
Maybe a chest. Could well be a pirate's chest looking type thing. Because there's some wood down there as well. But there's also a bunch of weird metals. But why would you be using those? It could be a meteorite, it could be
Could have been bought in from one of the realms.
could have been, extra dimensional. It could be a bunch of things.
I mean, it's very old. There would have been more reliable connections to some of the different...
It's been there since the gods walked among us, was the phrase.
Which ones?
Yeah, but again, yes, she's like, which ones? Trust me, MacArthur, it's a tricky question, that.
I'm just giving you... I'm just relaying what I've...
Okay. Well, so someone said that to you. Right, I thought you were being like...
Poetic.
Yeah.
No, I'm just relaying what our...
Oh, great. So it's like thousands of years old.
Yep.
Give or take.
chances are he's looking for
It's from-
reincarnations of the people who put it there, or the last people to actually use it, or something like that.
Clocks in the school chest can be opened by somebody.
She's like, it sounds silly, but avatar keyed items do exist. It's unusual, but it does exist. Normally made by your own previous incarnation. We didn't want anyone else to have it.
Anyway.
She's like, yeah, we're probably talking Mythic Age. So, yes. Anything the wrong side of 2,000 years ago, probably.
But yeah, I can't get a reading without this notice, because this is kind of reading the world anyway, so no one really notices it, 'cause it's like a background thing.
She's like, it's been, this has been here for centuries.
So
Okay, so it's just always there, so people don't even know what it would be like without it
It's
there.
embedded in the ley line, she says, so it's constantly
Yes.
there.
It's kind of like, if you put like a tidometer, like a something to measure water flow in like the sea. If you're clever enough, you could work out what all the currents in the world are doing.
But mostly it just floats and
But
nobody
no one
notices
over there
it.
would know you're doing it, really, unless they...
Sure.
So, I mean, I'm pretty certain there are some people on the enemy's side that do know this exists and do know what I'm probably trying to do with it.
Yeah.
But thankfully, we're warded enough and quick enough. They haven't as yet been able to fry me or it. But
Well, that's good. I'm still sort of stepping on my foot, balancing socks and shoes back on. Little sock suspenders. Little. Got to keep my socks up.
she's like, oh, and she does want it. Oh, and the thing itself,
Yeah, oh.
the resonance of the machine itself can make you feel a bit unstable on your feet as well. So that's not you, it's it.
Yeah, I noticed that.
Yeah, it's a shipboard resonance.
Probably
It's just someone's been on a ship.
Yeah, it's really weird to find something in the middle
Like
of
a big giant
stable
lodestone thing.
I don't
Anyway.
really know. I mean, we know Ren himself didn't build it, but the odds are on it was someone he knew well. We think it was the Order of Reason, which would later become the Technocracy, but back then was just another facet of the traditions.
Yeah.
But I don't know the name of its maker. It's obviously been lost to history, either deliberately or on purpose.
But no, it's
Deliberately
interesting.
or not on purpose.
Maybe they must have travelled around to
Did
get
I
to...
have lunch? I think I had lunch.
You had lunch.
Yeah.
She brought you
Hugh
lunch.
said I had lunch, yeah.
Yes.
I don't know what I do with that boy.
I think. Yes.
Is it wrong? I'm half holding. He holds off and waiting until after the war.
No.
Assuming we win. And if we don't win at this rate, there
We
won't be a
will
world
win.
for him to awaken in. Well,
We will win.
Oh, I'm pretty certain we will. At least I hope so.
Yes.
That's what my heart says.
Mr. Churchill will see to that. Right.
So, have you taken what you need?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes?
Yeah, I think so.
Nothing else I can do?
Nothing's coming to mind.
Wish us good luck.
I'll do that anyway.
Maybe say a word to the big man for us.
Again, I'll do that anyway.
Right, should we be off, gentlemen?
Yeah.
Let this good lady get back to her good work.
Yes. Yes.
So, prime-wise, how much quintessence can we take, wise?
Yeah.
Quintessence rules in the store was a bit vague.
Quintessence rules are almost
Are you like juicing up
deliberately
now?
vague.
You're
in
like on
range.
8 quintessence and like it's coming out the
It's sort of
seams of your
humming.
clothes.
Yeah.
Well, you can't hold more... You can hold more quintessence than your avatar at 1 prime.
Yes.
Can you?
Speaking, we all could.
Okay.
But you can't put it there yourself.
Right.
Okay.
But she can.
It takes 3 to, I think, because it says...
Would make some sense.
So
yeah,
she
3
can,
is
though.
generally when you start to be able to...
But also, she's also aware of the wonder abilities of juicing extremely junior mages up out of their eyeballs doesn't
Yeah,
tend
it's
to
3.
end
If offered
well.
freely, a mage can either
To be
take
fair-
quintessence from another individual or give
useful.
person with his own quintessence.
Juicing me up is likely to have not very useful. So what am I going to do with it all? I have
I'm going to
phenomenal
send you very hard.
My radar is running really efficiently.
yeah.
Or really effectively, anyway, not very efficiently, because it's using all my power. But what's
Really inefficient.
inefficient, high-powered
Effectively, her
radar.
water is her channeling it out of the node and giving it to other people.
So in essence, we could hold as much as any of us could hold as much as we wanted.
In essence, yes.
Because
Oh, blimey.
But
So
again,
I
I
can go
wouldn't
back to-
recommend going to...
So what kind of levels are dangerous for your body,
Yeah, I was going to ask what.
do you start to like break
Well,
apart
the trouble
with
is,
your power?
in theory, yes, you
Or
can start to break
you look very
apart, but
juicy to a Nefandi.
this is the thing. And in theory, until the circle joins up going around the other way, you don't run into massive problems.
Okay.
However, in practice,
That might be taking the mickey a little.
people with too much quintessence will probably make themselves larger targets to some extent. Yeah.
Also, there's
if I went
some-
to 4
if we're trying to be stealthy and
Sure.
quiet,
Sure.
running around with 20
But I
contestants
don't
in
know
here,
what
it's
the
like,
scale
there's
is.
major.
Is 4...
If he's not mage, then he's just a
Yeah.
walking lump of tass,
Yeah.
and I will eat him either
I was
way.
going to say, and either way,
Or he was standing very close
Yeah.
to a nuke.
or either way, it's dinner time.
Yeah, basically.
Yes. But no, having
4.
sort of 4 or 5 is probably reasonably
5.
acceptable.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
any more than that, and you might
I'm
start
gonna
to be a
go
bit
quick
noticeable.
Then I'm going to suggest we take some for 1,
Yes,
because
because
he can actually do some useful things like blowing things up with lightning.
Yes, Ron didn't come down here with you, actually. He was upstairs. He was looking at something. Maybe a war memorial.
I wonder when we lost him.
Upstairs.
Okay. Well, I'm going to suggest
you
we
could
take
him.
some up.
Ron who?
We'll take some up him because having him on, yeah.
On Max is probably a good plan,
I
yeah.
can like control lightning, but I can't
Create.
lightning. So.
Right.
Well, I could take a bunch and I could transfer it to him. I'm not, as long as he's happy with basically mildly electrocuted.
I'm sure he can handle that.
Okay.
He's a big bloke.
Yeah, let's not leave Ron out because Roger can't be here.
No.
Etherite methods aren't as nice as water norm. We'd like to think they're more efficient, but
You can take
Direct
some of the
current.
water as long as you're going to see him in the next couple of hours.
Yeah,
That's true.
He's upstairs, so
Yeah,
at least I think he is.
Yeah.
That's where we last saw him.
yeah. So one of these,
Yeah,
So,
well,
yeah.
just a keep-tated jug.
we'll get someone to bring the jug back.
Give it to Hugh. It will be fine.
Thank you.
Sure. Thank you very much.
So if I took 6, do you reckon I could hide that much? Because I have got quite a lot of brine
Yes,
myself
you
if I
probably
needed to.
could, yes.
I've still got 2 paradoxes. That stay?
It stays until...
Stays until I decide it doesn't.
Okay, cool.
I think it might bleed away like one.
So she says,
Or if
actually,
you've got lots of time and you use some of this quintessence.
Yeah, that's like 5, I think.
Yes, as I said, lots of prime. But way
5
beyond the
prime.
level we have. Considering you can't... Considering you have to have Erte 5 to do that first.
Yeah, I'm away off that as well.
Yeah. Something like to happen.
Not quite as far as...
True.
Sorry, I just wanted to ask.
one slightly strange thing that I think I should give to you, and don't ask me why, because I don't really know the answer.
Okay.
Give me a minute. Have a seat. Right.
Okay, I'll sit down again.
Right. She pops over to what looks, to be honest, like a big sideboard that's on the side, but it's very wood and heavy and ornate, and she starts going through drawers in it. There's lots of small drawers. No. No.
That's where that is.
Yeah.
Oh, that's where I left my sandwiches from last week.
Oh,
No, don't like that one.
Yeah,
no.
just close it again.
Right. And she comes back with a teeny tiny little black pouch. And takes it out, and it's got a little cloth in it. And so she's used the cloth to bring out what's there. And it's a single gold coin or medallion, little circular gold disc about 4 or 5 centimetres round. And probably about the same thickness as a pound coin. So
Okay.
about the same size as a £2 coin. But it looks shiny, 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 shiny gold. And there is only 2 things on. There's one thing on each face. One has a outline of a sun, and the one on the other side there is an outline of a sort of stylized crescent moon.
Okay.
I think you should take this with you. I don't really know why.
Anyone in particular?
I don't think it matters as long as it goes with you.
Do you know what it is?
I'll take it from her.
It's a relatively minor artifact, but it's connected to this. She points at the one, so it's part of one of its original maker's things.
Big golden coins.
We've used them as sympathetic connections in the past, but I think so I could see you, I suppose, theoretically.
Sure.
But it just feels like it would be a useful thing for you to have. I couldn't really tell you why.
So you can give Dragobus.
Possibly. I mean, you could see us as well, though, so there would be some advantage in that, probably.
Don't
But it just
lose
feels
it
like
to
you
the
just
enemy.
have it.
I won't lose it to the enemy.
No, do not lose it to the enemy
I
under
will
all
not lose it
circumstances.
to the enemy. I put
Seriously, like, swallow it
my
before you do that.
inside waistcoat
Actually, that might not
pocket.
help.
That might not help.
No. Yeah, do not lose it. Throw it in the
I-
fjord,
I will
Yeah.
port it to the fjord.
if needs be. As I
Yes.
said, I think...
Okay.
I think...
So like a deep, sublimeness.
Yes. Well, yeah, you could just melt it. That'll probably help. Either way,
Oh,
yes.
do you want to keep hold of it then, just in case?
I don't think it talks to me very well. It's not really my end of things.
Of course.
So I think you'll probably get more from it usefully, but
Very well.
I can destroy it probably quite easily.
If we have that and it's connected here, does that mean that if we need it, we could possibly draw upon some power?
Yes, almost definitely.
Because I'm thinking there's something that we have that requires a lot of power but could be incredibly useful. Well, something that Harry has.
Something that Harry has. What does Harry have? The cine film.
Yep. You remember that the Nefandus was talking about he wants
Yeah,
it so
to have
that
two
if things
tries.
goes wrong, so he can have another shot at it?
Yeah,
Wouldn't it be nice if we had the second shot at it?
absolutely.
Especially when considering the kind of overwhelming power we're going up against.
Remember, yes, but this is where you start to take very powerful things into the jaws of the enemy.
I
Yeah,
agree.
And then,
what else are you going to do?
it's all or nothing. No, I agree.
She also
I
says,
absolutely agree.
in my experience, generally the best bet is do it right the first time. But time magic is a capricious beast.
But having a second shot if things go wrong.
Yes, if it's desperately wrong, that's still probably yes. But as I said, time magic is
Yes. Not to be trifled with, but neither is a Nethandic master with a
yeah,
phenomenally powerful ancient
there is a
artifact.
reason most of the ecstatics are drunk most of the time. It's because it's the only way that time really works, I strongly suspect.
Okay,
I
for
don't,
them.
yeah, well, I'm not sure you can really...
It doesn't seem to affect me.
Oh, I-
Things may have changed, but I won't.
time gives me a hellish headache. I obviously don't do it right. Right.
Very
So,
well.
take care, don't die horribly, and I'll see you when you come back.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, cheers, Rachel. You're really good. Been a great help. Been really, really interesting. Thanks a lot.
Right. And when you get back to the thing, there is a key on this side, but it's currently on the floor.
Okay.
So if you pick it up and put it in the lock, you can unlock it and then leave it. And Hugh is standing just outside.
Yeah.
And as you're closing the door behind you, you say, "Hugh, did I have my lunch?" He's like, "Yes." See, I said she was good today.
Yes.
That's
absolutely.
definitely one of her better days.
Was it?
It's been a tremendous help to us.
Trying to contain and channel that much and those many connections is going to strain anyone.
Confuse, I would expect.
Yeah, I think. But to be fair, that's not. He's leading you back upstairs at this point.
Sure.
But that's not entirely a bad thing. My cousin's on the continent somewhere.
Sure.
So if she doesn't think about that too hard, that's probably no bad thing.
Right.
She considered.
I think she thinks he's still at school most days, so.
Okay.
Has she considered? I mean, I don't want to tell someone that knows the job a lot better than I do, but the way they tend to do things like complicated, similar sort of intelligence type work, which is in essence what she's kind of doing, at places like Bletchley Park, is that they have a bunch of people that aren't necessarily enlightened, but are, trained to help out. She's trying to basically deceive and confuse and direct and stuff, and I'm sure the actual stuff itself has to be done by her, but a lot of the thinking around it could probably be, I don't know.
Farmed out. He says, well, maybe I'll make the suggestion to my uncle.
Not a bad idea. We're going to go there anyway, aren't we? Or are we going to talk to them? Bletchley Park? About possible
Transportation.
transportation. I think flying and dropping and
Oh, yeah,
skiing and
And
landing.
let's
and all
not
these
have a
things.
particularly loud conversation about this once we are out of the private areas.
Sure,
of the
sure.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm just trying to think of the.
Walls
Obviously, it's a
have
good idea.
ears, says he.
It's obviously a good idea, but I'm just
Yes.
thinking the best
There's posters in it.
I know.
approach.
Have you eaten your carrots?
Yep. Chili carrots and not radar.
Okay, so we'll go and get
It
Ron.
was, wasn't
We'll
it?
go and
That
get-
was their
I
excuse.
know,
Was
yeah,
the
I love
carrots
it.
were giving the pilots brilliant eyesight.
Yeah,
Actually, it was radar.
Yeah.
Because
Should we go and get Ron and then head back to Harry? Discuss it there?
I need someone with a secure phone line-ish anyway.
Yeah, let's head back towards Howie then, I
So,
suppose.
yeah, that's
That'll be
quite the closest place.
Yes.
Yeah.
And maybe we can get some food somewhere on the way.
That sounds like a spiffing idea.
I think we may have forgotten to have lunch today.
I don't
He's
think you're
like, we
right.
We did offer.
We're running around.
You
You're
did.
amazed
you
how
did.
many lunches we go through here.
I'm sure we can get
I
something.
think Ron has
somewhere,
3 a day.
Thank you.
That's a big chat.
Right, when you get to the top of the stairs, there is a small crowd off to one side. They appear to be staring at something.
Are they staring at Ron?
They are indeed staring at Ron,
Okay.
who appears to be on the floor.
Oh dear. I'm going to head over to him quite sharpish.
Yes. Head over.
Right.
Yeah.
He's sort of awake, and a couple of kind people are sort of giving him a drink of water, and he looks a bit shaken.
I am going to any sort of immediate symptoms. So if I do a quick perception and medicine roll.
Yeah, why not?
I'm going to do a quick brain scan.
Okay, quick brain scan.
Perception medicine roll. A 5,
MRI.
an 8, and a 9.
Marvellous. 3 successes, probably. Right, he looks like he doesn't look injured. He has no obvious physiological signs of an injury or illness. However, he looks, it looks like he's possibly had some sort of panic attack or something. He looks clammy and kind of sweaty, and like he's been shaking a little bit, and he's gone very pale as well, like you sort of people do if they've had a sort of anxiety attack or that sort of thing.
I've got, depending on how hard it is, I've got 2 or 3 successes.
Right, okay, so difficulty 6 on this one.
2.
You have prime but not spirit?
I have prime but not spirit.
Right, okay. We'll get to that in a sec.
Okay.
Are you sort of pushing your way into him,
I'm
basically?
going up and...
Right.
Yeah.
He looks at you and says, he says, "Where are we, cousin?" In very archaic Norwegian.
It's your fault.
Where are we? Why is everyone so strangely dressed?
Probably best if we head to and...
I don't feel very well. I don't think.
I can help you. Let's go and get something to... Let's go and find something to eat.
Something weird is going on with
He
Ron,
says
I can tell
in
from the
Norwegian.
mind scan. Yeah.
Well, the fact you two can hear him talking in Norwegian, which
Yeah.
you're pretty certain he didn't mention at any point, which it would seem a little unusual.
I'm going to walk over and go, Ron, I didn't know you could speak Norwegian. You could have said that. I mean, that's pretty useful.
I'm mostly going to be talking to the crowd.
Right. Again, you're
Lovely to
the
hear,
only,
folks.
you're the only
thanks
one
very much for your
that
help.
can
It's all right. Yeah, these-
understand what he's
sometimes.
saying.
Oh, that's my job, isn't it?
What he says to Pete is, "Father, I was not drunk this time." He said some Norwegian at you. Actually, you've got quite a lot of mind magic and you're
Yeah.
trying to read him. He said to you, "Father, I'm not that drunk this time." Ron is currently not Ron.
Yeah.
Ron is currently
is not
some
there.
form
Like
of
a-
ancient Norse warrior. But you also think that it's somehow involving his avatar.
Oh.
Past life regression, possibly? I mean, you're a hermetic, they're into that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Right,
we should get out
I
of here.
don't know. I don't feel particularly good at all.
Quick,
Again,
we have to head off to the hall,
I don't
I'll say, into his mind.
feel
In-
very good. And
Jeremy
he just
hasn't read all the
he just-
Scandinavian epics.
He
so
just
doesn't know
flops
who
over to one side again, just because
Jarls
I
and-
do not feel very good.
And I will try and catch him.
And you try and catch him, and then you get a sort of Canadian accent and English. What? Whatever it was goes away again.
Let's head back to... We're going to head back up to Whitehall
Okay,
and
all right.
try and get something to
My
eat.
head is killing me.
We'll talk on the way.
Okay.
Right. I think we should probably end it there for the evening.
Okay.
So we can explain to...
So we can explain
Yeah,
to
yeah.
Roger what's
All right.
happened to him when we get there. Is that all right?
Yeah.
That seems
yeah.
a good point.
Cool.
Right.
Excellent. Okay, well, thank you very much for joining us for episode 7
Yes.
of Masters and Monsters. We'll have to think up a title for the episode.
St. Paul's?
Wasn't it St. Paul's last time?
No,
it wasn't.
Aldwych, it was.
It
Last time
was
it's all
Yeah.
right.
So
The one
this is
and
Paul's.
Peter
I'm
and
getting
St. Paul's.
confused with that one.
So
restaurant game.
St. Paul's. Just
St. Paul's.
St. Paul's.
Excellent.
Yes.
Brilliant. Yeah.
So next week may or may not be Bletchley Park. We shall have to say.
Or possibly Norway.
Or possibly
yeah.
Norway.
Yeah.
Depending on how far we get.
Yes.
Yeah, there's going to be a fjord episode at some point. But anyway.
There will definitely be a fjord. I
Yeah.
promise there will be a fjord.
So thank you for joining us. A lot of fun on that one.
Yeah, that was quite
hopefully
cool.
you guys enjoyed watching that. Please don't forget to like, comment and subscribe below. Check out all the links that we've got for all of our other shows, for our Patreon. As we said, we're doing lots of things on there that we're sharing with you guys. And if you want to support the channel, then we would be very appreciative. We are bringing Flint and Steel back next week with a character conversion episode, not character creation, but character conversion to the new edition that's just out. And apparently the print version might be coming out soonish. So hopefully we'll have a book at some point, which I prefer than a PDF. But anyway, yes. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time on Masters and Monsters. Bye-bye.